My name is Chip Clark. I'm a senior AI and ML specialist with AWS. And in this video, I'm going to take you through a quick tutorial on standing up Amazon Kendra for a product search use case. In this video, we'll download and process an e-commerce dataset to produce documents and metadata. We'll create a Kendra index, connect it to a data source, tune our search results or search rankings. And then finally, I'll show how you can use the Python SDK to query your index and customize the search results. The dataset I'm using for this will be an LLbean e-commerce dataset found on Kaggle. It's a CSV with fields around a product. So things like color, description as a free text field, as well as the name, obviously, and then there's a category as well, or a classification, but a category. The link to this data set and relevant resources, as usual, will be in the description. So we'll download this data set and transform it into JSON documents for ease. But there are a number of document types supported within Kendra, so please check the documentation, which will also be in the description. Now we can download this data set. I'll click the button here, but I've already done this. And we'll unzip, and I'll be using the products classified in this example. And then for processing, I'm going to use a Jupyter Notebook and SageMaker, but that's also a convenience choice for me. You can use your preferred IDE. I do want to show you, so we'll store our data in S3. And I just want to show you that I have created that bucket already. Platform product data. Name it whatever you like. Just be aware of what region you're placing it in. And then I'll go to SageMaker and walk you through the processing code. And I will hop into my domain. So this processing code is fairly minimal. Just some light data cleaning, and then I'm going to format it into JSONs. Right, but the important pieces, I'm not importing anything unusual, right? And so I'm loading in the CSV, that product's classified. The columns that I'm keeping are the name, obviously, which is the product, the description, which is the free text field. There's an item ID that I'm keeping as well, and then the color name and classification. All right, so you see a name here. There's discussion of hiking boots, running jackets, etc. There's a description that looks like a list, so we'll need to deal with that, as well as an item ID that's also looks like a list, so we'll also handle that, and then the color name, which is also a list. Lots of lists in these fields, and so we'll handle that. And then finally, the classification: boots, jackets, shoes, etc. So the first thing I'm going to do is just do some processing of the item ID. I'm just stripping the list option and just keeping the first thing. And if the list is empty, I'm just giving it an item ID of 0. Additionally, for the color name, so I'm keeping all of the color name objects, but right now this is read as a string, so I'm just going to turn it into a list so that now color name is a proper list. And for the description, so the description also has multiple items. It has the sort of text description and then some specifications. I'm just going to keep the text description for this example. And then finally, I'm doing some renaming. So name is going to be product. Description is remaining description because I didn't really need that. The item ID is going to be ID. The color name colors, and classification is going to be category. And then I'm just showing, ensuring that everything's right there. So for one of the examples that I'm going to show towards the end around sort of customized ranking is around different user profiles. So Kendra does support multiple user groups. If you only want to show certain results to certain groups of users. But in this case, we're going to do something slightly different. So I'm going to attach some user profiles to my data set, right? And you can think of these as like clusters for the product. So in this case, some products are meant for resellers, some products are meant for consumers, some products are meant for distributors. And I'm just taking a random choice, so that's why this is called the mock user profiles, because these aren't real, but we're adding them to show what you could do. And finally, we're going to format our documents, obviously, create JSONs, and then store those into S3. So there are two pieces to note. One, so okay, I'm in my bucket, but when I'm making these documents, I'm just looping through the rows of my data frame. I'm going to set an ID, a product, so the name, and then the description of the pieces that I'm keeping. You can keep the color of the category as well. I don't think those are needed for this. And then I'm going to dump that JSON and upload it to S3. All right, nothing fancy here. I'm just taking the fields and converting them to JSONs. Additionally, I'm going to create metadata, right? And your metadata is really what you can use to filter and sort your results. So for instance, if you want to filter by color, you want to add a color list to this. If you want to filter by, I'm also going to use the user profile, you need to add that to you want to add that to your metadata. So for me, this metadata object is going to have attributes. So one is going to be the category, right? And anything with an underscore just are reserved fields or sort of default fields that are there. We can add others. So I'm adding a colors field. And so that'll be that list of colors. And then also we'll add the user profile, which is a string, and the title that we'll want to display. I'm going to dump that JSON as well. And then I'm going to also upload it to S3. The difference is I'm going to place it in a metadata subfolder. Okay, and that's all, right? So it's really minimal processing. I'm just making sure the things that are lists, and the things that I don't want to be lists are not lists. And we can run this. And it should take, 2 seconds or so. 4 seconds. 10 seconds. Or I will, okay. So it finished running. It didn't take too long, so 30 seconds or so, but I didn't need you all to wait for that. And now we've uploaded our data into S3, so we're just going to check that it's actually there. We'll head back to S3. And look at our platform product data bucket. And we should see some things. Okay, so we have some documents. This all looks good. And if we scroll down, we should also have, a metadata folder that should have just the metadata for all of those objects. .metadata.json. Okay, that's great. And now we're ready to head to Amazon Kendra and create an index. Okay, so I already have an index here, just me checking that everything would work. We'll create a new index, and this will be our products index. You can add a description. You should generally. I won't add one here. So your IAM role, you just want to make sure you create a role that gives access to S3, which is where we'll be pulling our data from. And go to next. We can leave these things as default, and then you have your developer edition and enterprise edition. Developer edition is obviously what we'll use for this sort of a small demo. If you have larger needs and if you're planning to put this into production, you can use enterprise. But please don't create an enterprise edition based solely off of this video. But that's what you would use, and we can create this. So it'll go about creating. It says it can take up to 30 minutes. I really don't think it'll take that long, but I will pause recording and then come back once it's complete. Okay, as soon as I stop recording, it completed. So that's good. But now we have our index. And with this index, there are a couple of pieces to be aware of. The main one will be the data sources, and that's where we'll connect our S3 bucket to. Additionally, if we have frequently asked questions or things that we know are common queries and want to add a response, we can use that. And then we have our facet definitions. And the facet definitions is where I'll start because it has all of the field names that are reserved, but it'll also contain any field names that we want to add ourselves. This is important because if we want to be able to facet by or really filter by a certain field, we'll need to have this enabled. Or if we want to search by a field, or if we want to display that field, we need that as enabled as well. So for example, the document title, if we want the document title to be displayed instead of the file name, then we set this to displayable and ensure that that's recorded in our metadata. If we want to be able to sort by category, we need to make sure that's that it is sortable. And we'll add a couple of others, the fields that we added to our metadata. So specifically, category is already there for us, but the colors and user profile we need to add to our fields. And so I will add a field. Need to remember that name, which is colors, and we need data type. So remember that was a list of strings, which is supported here. And the major thing is we just want it facetable. We can also make it searchable, but that's not the biggest deal. And I don't think we need to display the color. Or maybe we should. So we'll add this. And now at the bottom of our list, we have a new field that's our colors field, and that corresponds to that metadata file that we uploaded or created. So we have one more to go. And the other is user profile. And this was a string. And we can filter on this and search on this, sure. Sure, it can be displayable as well. And so we'll add that. And now we've added another field, right? Our colors and user profiles. It is important that whatever custom fields you add to your metadata, you ensure that they're in your facet definitions. Otherwise, you can get failures. But with that, we're ready to connect the data source. So we'll go to our data sources. There's sample documents, which I recommend if you're just testing things out. For us though, there are a number of connectors. We've used S3, so that's the connector we'll use. We need to give it a name. I think these were e-commerce data. Again, always descriptions. Our language is English, and we'll continue. Right, so we have our IAM role, which will be our Kendra role that we created before, and we can go next. And so now here's where we're actually adding our information. So what's our S3 bucket, which is our platform data. And then our metadata folder. So for us, it was metadata. I think was the folder name. We can also browse. I guess doing it by browsing would have been better. There we go. Let's see, it was the same thing. And then if you have any access control list information, which we don't, and we can choose a sync schedule. So you can sync this on custom schedules or sort of the common schedules. I'll do run on demand, especially if you won't have your data sources updating frequently, then there's no reason to sync frequently. So we'll run this on demand. And there's some information on mapping some S3 fields. We don't need that in this case. And now it takes us to a review. Just make sure everything's correct. E-commerce, S3. We have a really good description there. And we can add our data source. So it'll create the data source. Yep, that was super quick. And now we just need to sync it. And this should also take very few seconds, but I think I will pause it on this one. And so it'll crawl the data source and then index the data source. But I'll pause here. All right, our data source has synced. It was successful, no issues there. In general, the amount of time it'll take to sync depends on your data source size and document complexity to a certain extent. But for us, for the couple hundred documents that we had, there's no problem. So after this, we're actually done. We have our index, we've ingested our data source or synced our data source. We can perform searches. And there's a search console provided to you through the search index content. And when using Kendra, right, the idea is to use natural language queries. So let's come up with a query. I would like some hiking boots, let's say. We can enter this and we'll get query results. So, right, we have our men's waterproof hiking boots. Okay, that seems reasonable. And what we're seeing here is the text snippet, but really it's the JSON file that we have. And if we additionally want to know where that's located, we have the link. Now you can use Kendra with websites as well. So if this were a website, then we would have a web address here. Or if you have a URL as part of this object or URI, right? So you might have the web link to this search result, and you can show that here as well. Additionally, you have any of the document fields that you indexed. So we have the colors, we have our user profile because we said we want those to be displayable, and then you have your source URI, which is the thing that's displayed here. Additionally, so there are 43 results that were returned here. If we want to further filter our results, so the things we made facettable, specifically our colors and our user profile, we can do that here. So, oops. Let's say we wanted to look at the hiking boots options, but only the ones that have black. Then we can do that. Let me see, we have some kids' boots, and somewhere in this, right, we see the colors, that includes black. Additionally, if we also want to look at any navy boots. Oh, okay, I guess it's this one. It has black and classic navy. Right, as well as some other colors, then we have that option here. And so we can filter by colors. We can also additionally filter by the user profile, right? In this case for resellers, and we show that here. So I also noticed that what I don't have here is the category field, which I did want to add in. So we can go back to our index and go back to our facet definition. And so for our category field, we just want to make that facettable. We can also display it, but it's not the biggest deal. And then we'll just save. And this is now updated. So if we go back and search our content, so I would like some boots. So we have our documents, we have our search results again, but if we go to the filter, now we have a category, right? So we can filter on just boots, which unsurprisingly is the highest return option when searching for boots. But there are some other things that seem less in line with that, right? That we also have access to. Now with this, we can filter down until we see exactly the results we want. Great. Now additional options. Remove all this. We may say that we don't. This. They're good results, they're not great results. We may want to do some tuning. And so if you come over to the right-hand side, right-hand panel, there's this sliders icon here. And if you click this, you can then tune your relevance. And the way you'll do that is by boosting the fields that are tracked. So in this case, the document title has a boost of 2, right? Which you can think of how much weight it's given. So the higher, the more weight you have. And in this case, right, our document title has a boost of 2. The color, the user profile, our source URI has a boost of 1. But let's say we wanted to give more weight to colors, to the user profile. Then we can increase this boost to 3 or 5 and then save. And now that's updated. Additionally, so what we don't see here that we might want to boost on is the description. Not the description, is the category. Sorry. And so again, we can go back out to our index, go to our facet definitions, and then for category, we just want that to be searchable. And so we can save that. And if we go back to our search, and go to our tuning, we didn't need the search to go to the tuning, but we'll now have a category field that we can filter on, that we can boost with. So we may say the category field is the most important, and we can save that. I don't care too much about the user profile. I'll say it is 3, and there we go. And great. Right. With that, I want to draw your attention to the user profile. So here, if we only want to filter by user profile, so we only want to show results for reseller, for instance, we can click that and it's fine and that works well. But let's say we just want to greatly increase, right? Or we just want to show the reseller option first, but if that's not what the user wants, we still want to show the other options as well. So that isn't currently supported out of the box with Kendra, right? We can filter, but we can't sort of show first and then show the rest second. That is possible using the API though. And so that's what I'll show next. Right, so I have jumped back into SageMaker, into my notebooks, and now I'm going to look at the Kendra API calls. Just as a note, these notebooks will be available through the description, but we're not doing anything fancy here, right? The only package we're using is Bodo, but we're going to make API calls that'll return our query results the same way we did through the interface. And we're going to do some advanced, using air quotes there, filtering or sorting, where first I'll show the results if we have the user profile, and then I'll show the remaining results. Just show that you can do that. You can set that up for yourself if you like, and you don't have to just purely filter on certain keys. But this function here is just to display results. It takes the response that we're going to get from our query, as well as a user profile if we provide one, and then it's just going to print out some results in a nice way, or nice enough for this demo. The real meat is here, right? So not much, but we're going to use Boto to call the Kendra client. We're going to use our index ID, and our index ID, if you go back to your index, then scroll down, you have your index settings, and that'll have your index ID here. So you can just copy this, and that's what's pasted here. We'll have our query. So again, that boots please, but whatever query you'd like. And then there's a user profile for this example. I will first show the results if you don't provide a user profile. So the same thing that we were seeing before, but then I'll show what the results, how the results would change if you wanted a user profile to take precedent. Next, we have the actual query. So we're just going to call Kendra.query. We'll have our query text, our index ID, nothing fancy here. And I've added some links if you want to know more. So please look at those, they're great. But here's the SDK guide for querying, as well as the extra parameters that you can use. So what's in this response? Right, so the keys, there's a query ID, their result items, that's what we'll be using. They're the facet results. So again, those filtering results that we had in our search, as well as the total number of results that meet that some threshold, and then the response metadata, right? So how long it took, were there any retries, etc. So in this case, we had 25 results. The responses, so the result items, have this form. So there's an ID, that's great. There's a lot of information. The real information starts here. So there's a document ID. So what do we save that document as? There's a document title. And then there are highlights associated with that. So where does this text match your search query? Right, and it starts an offset, or it has a beginning offset and end offset. So that's if you wanted to do highlighting. And then you can know if it's a top answer. So top answers are just those things that are, more than likely to be correct. They very well match the provided query. And then there's a type, which is standard. So in the same way that there's a document title and highlights for that, there's also the document excerpt. So in the actual document, where's the text that matches, right? And they give some text before and some text after, but similarly, right, we have our text string. This is just the raw JSON, and there are highlights associated with that. So that can be a list, and in this case it is. So there's an offset at character 25 to 30, as well as an offset from 143 to 148. Right. There's then the document URI, or the source where this is coming from. If it's a web address, is a web address. I guess this is a web address, but this is an S3 address. If you were to click on this, you could download the JSON. I'm not going to do that. Or, okay, I won't. There are the document attributes that come along with that. So there's the category, right, which is, this is a boots object. There's the source URI, which is also here. There's the user profile, which is here, and then the color list, which is also here, right? Then there's a score, right? So the score is ordinal, right? So there's like low, although you won't get those results returned. There's a medium and high, and I think a very high, but don't quote me on that. And that's our object, right? And we have a list of these. So now let's get to actually sorting these. So I'm going to call the display function, or display results that we had above, and it's just going to print out those results. So if we pass in our response, we'll get our top 10 results. There goes the 3 high results, and then the rest are mediums, but that's fine. Here are the different user profiles, right? So there's distributor, consumer, blah, 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 all the way down, and then the title, right? So I'm not printing anything fancy, just printing what was provided to me. if we wanted to sort this by the user profile, right? So we wanted to take the options that match the user profile, display those first, and then display the rest of our results. We can also do that if we provide a user profile, and it's just the high consumer result and then the medium consumer results. And then following that, we just have our sorted list of the remaining objects. So in this way, you can do lots of different sortings or different display modes if you'd like, or you can just display the results exactly as is. And the API becomes key, especially if you have your own platform, right? If you're just sort of feeding the search results to your platform using Kendra, then that's when you'll probably be making use of the API. So please look at the documentation here. But with that, I think we're done, right? So this was a pretty quick one, how you can stand up Amazon Kendra. I think this definitely took us 30 minutes or less. And please place any questions in the comments below. I'll definitely try and get to them. Look at the documentation and the links in the description. All of this stuff will be available, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.